Is a mother. She has worked in the financial services industry. She is a military veteran, and now she's a political commentator with an extraordinary gift for talking about the key issues that face our country. Let's please welcome Kathy Barnette. Kathy.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Ooh, that's weak. Good morning. I know. I see my friends down here from, how are you guys? So good to see you all. Oh, my goodness. One of the only thing that I would add to that intro, the very good intro, but the only thing I would add to that is that I'm also a homeschooling mama. And that is perhaps other than being a wife to a wonderful husband, that is perhaps my greatest accomplishment, is listening to the Lord and doing something that was so not on my bucket list. Homeschooling was not on my bucket list. We're getting ready to end our 5th year. Am I going to get time on that clock? Because y'all know I can talk. So if I don't have something to tell me when to stop, you might all be in trouble. But listen, it's so much I can talk about. I just got a book deal from the #1 conservative publisher in the nation. I'm very grateful to God for that. I just came back from Israel. I don't know if any of you follow me on Facebook. If you don't, Kathy Barnette for Truth. Just give that shameless plug there. Go out there and find me. And that was so, I was trying to find something more profound to say than life-changing. Everyone who goes to Israel comes back and say, oh, it was so life-changing. But I honestly could not find anything more profound than it was truly life-changing. I came back with such a fire in my belly. I had unprecedented access to so many people while I was over there. I got to walk and spend maybe about 3 hours with Colonel Danny Tazar, who was in charge of building the security fence, because only 5% of the 450 miles is actually a wall. So it's more of a fence with a lot of technology and things like that, and just getting to understand the mindset of the Israelis there. Also had time to spend with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, young girls, young boys, and they are bad. I mean, bad to the bones. I would not want to face off with them, but just so much information, so much that I was able to garner. How many of you guys have heard about BDS? Show of hands. Not that many. BDS. Yeah, you guys should know about this. It's BDS stands for Boycott, Divest, and Sanction Israel. And it is very prevalent, throughout the echelons. It's nothing new, like Solomon said. There's nothing new under the sun. And because they were doing it back during Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. days and the Black Panthers, there's a number of photos of Yasser Arafat taking with some of the quote-unquote black leaders. I use that quote-unquote leader, the word leaders, very loosely there, taking pictures with them, moving this kind of thought process along. And today it has risen its head again. How many of you guys have heard of Mark Lamont Hill? Yeah, did you guys see him at the United Nations, what he did? After coming back from Palestine, he got off the plane, immediately went to the United Nations, gave a very long speech, and ended it with, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." How many of you guys have heard of that saying? Well, Mark Lamont Hill claims to be a subject matter expert, but when he got in trouble for making that reference, all of a sudden, he pretended he knew nothing. I mean, how can you be a subject matter expert and claim to know nothing about what it is you're talking about? But for many of us, we understand that reference, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," it references a complete annihilation of Israel. And there he was on the United Nations speaking for the world to hear. And then when he got in trouble for it, he claimed he didn't know. But BDS is something that is growing within the Black community. Once again, the Black community, our history in this nation is being pimped out to the highest bidder to see who it is, using our history to say, look, see how the white man oppressed you? Well, now the white European Jews are oppressing other people, the Palestine, and now you must be enraged by it, right? So that movement is growing within the Black community, and that anti-Semitism, you guys have heard of Ilhan Omar, I assume, every other week apologizing, only for us to be told by our legislator, Nancy Pelosi, that, oh, she doesn't understand what she's saying. Isn't that interesting? That seems to be a legitimate excuse for a Democrat when they stick their foot in their mouth, is that, oh, they just don't understand what they're doing, right? And yet they repeatedly do it. They repeatedly do it over and over and over again, but we're supposed to say, oh, they didn't know. So that is something I really want you guys to pay attention to as it grows, because it is growing within the Black community. That isn't even what I was going to talk about, but there's just so much to talk about. So I was trying to condense it, what to talk about. If you have listened to me for any length of time, you would know I grew up on a pig farm in southern Alabama. And it was the best childhood ever. Look at that big picture of me. It was the best childhood ever. I mean, I lament that I can't give it to my children sometime. I take them back once a year. The farm is no longer there, but my father's side of the family is still there, and they still get to get a little bit of what it felt like growing up in the extremely rural, deep south of Alabama. We were very impoverished. When my grandmother, she would always say, Kathy, come and help me in the garden, and I thought she just wanted to spend quality time with me. Never knew that it was for our survival, that if we wanted greens or peas or beans on the plate, we had to go out there and grow it ourselves. And let me tell you, growing up very impoverished, had a very bad speech impediment, did not speak clearly until I was in 7th grade. You guys would not understand a word I'm saying right now. Had it not been for the grace of God, because he knew he had a plan for me, and that plan was to speak to millions of people and to make an impact. And like he told Moses, didn't I create the tongue? Am I not able to put the words in your mouth? And that is what he did. I heard a click when I was walking down the hall in school in 7th grade, and from that point to now, I've been speaking clearly, and according to my brothers, I'm making up for lost times. But that's siblings for you. But, 19, the most profound change in my life is that I gave my life to the Lord. And that was by far the most profound thing I've ever done, second only to marrying just such an amazing man. I had seen so many bad examples that I was determined to never get married nor have children. And then God introduced me to such a wonderful man, and the only thing better than that is giving my life to the Lord. And that was perhaps the most profound aspect of kind of shifting my journey onto a new path. And then as I started walking that path and going to college and looking around, getting my first job in the Wall Street environment, working with A.G. Edwards, and then moving over to the buy side with Bank of America Capital Asset Management, looking around. Again, I'm coming from a pig farm. I mean, if you had life insurance, you was doing something. And so now to be in this environment, reading the Wall Street Journal, having these conversations, making decisions, encouraging the mutual fund holders to purchase one thing or another, or the mutual fund managers to sell, buy, hold, or whatever the case may be. It was huge and monumental for me, and I remember asking God to to either bring someone alongside me to assist me, to mentor me, or to open up my eyes and give me wisdom to see what it is I needed to see. He opted for the latter. And it has been that mode all the way throughout my life of just being able to walk into a room and see the things that I needed to do and say and whatnot. And one of the things that he used tremendously are those pig farm values that I grew up with. If you plant a seed, you get to reap a seed, right? If you don't plant, you don't reap. You don't harvest, right? If you don't plant, right? I remember my grandmother and grandfather waking up very early in the morning, and to this day, I'm waking up at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning to do the things that needed to get done because the day must move on and you must move forward. And it was those particular, me kind of going back to those pig farm values of working hard, of, my grandmother, although we grew up in the very deep and very rural South, and if you know anything about the South, the very deep South, you understand a little bit of what I'm inferencing or why I'm placing emphasis on very deep and rural South. She never talked about the white man. She never talked about, Kathy, you're a victim. Kathy, you can't do something or be something because of the color of your skin. You're less than because of the color. People are going to view you that way because this, that, and the third. Instead, what they modeled for me was waking up early, sowing that seed, in full anticipation that one day you're going to be able to reap not just the seed you sowed, but so much more of that. And it was those principles of me looking at what those pig farm values and realizing that I can be whatever I want to be. Perhaps I won't, be an Oprah Winfrey or a, I don't know, give me a rich white guy. Yes, a Donald Trump. But I could carve out a respectable life for myself, right? If I put forth some effort, if I don't claim to be a victim. Because in order to be a victim, I got to give someone my power. That whole white privilege concept that is slung around so much to make white liberals feel superior to everyone else who don't look like them. That's exactly what it is. In order for me to believe you have white privilege, I need to look at myself and say, well, I'm less than. I'm little, I'm small, I'm a victim to the circumstances, and I reject that. As I tell my children, we are not victims, we are victors. We have such a rich heritage. I think about getting emotional. But I think about those who have come before me, and slavery was a dirty business. It was dirty, dirty, dirty. I read a book, a biography of George Washington, and he said that slavery not only, it degraded the soul of the owner just as much as the people they own. It was a dirty business to be in, and to grow up in the very deep and rural South. There were people, those who held on, and not for themselves, but for their posterity, believing that as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, that the words of our Constitution is not bankrupt, that all men are created equal, and that our nation would recognize that and move towards that. And those who grew up in slavery and all of that, they held on, not for themselves, but for their posterity. And I am their posterity, and I refuse to be a victim to anyone, and I refuse to raise up little victims around me, and I refuse to allow anyone to be in my sphere and walk away saying loudly anyway that they're a victim and that somebody got privilege over them. But it was those principles as I was growing up as, you know, in the whole Wall Street environment and looking all around and trying to figure out this big world, God had opened up a door for me to walk into, and realizing that it was those values of just working hard, not seeing myself as a victim, carving out my own path in life. It was when I went into the military and got ready to graduate from boot camp that I realized, OMG, for goodness, in case I get some emails, not saying God, but oh my goodness, I could be sent to war. Probably should have had that epiphany prior to signing up. But I remember having that, just walking, minding my business, and the thought hit me right before graduation, OMG, they could send me off to war. I'm just getting into this because I need money for school. Not really trying to fight a battle for anybody, right? And I asked myself the question, would you really go if they sent you? Because, you know, there's some ways to get out. And it was at that moment that I said, yes, I would. But in order for me to do that, I need to understand what it is I could be potentially laying my life down for. And from that age of 17 until today, it started that whole quest of me reading and understanding the Founding Fathers. I'm reading through a significant book on every Founding Father and teaching it to my children and talking to other people about it because I wanted to understand, because, you know, you have to understand, growing up in the Black community, I mean, there's some legitimacy to if you're Black, you're a Democrat. When you have 92% of your people voting a particular way, you're essentially born into being a Democrat. You come out Black and a Democrat when you're born, for the overwhelming majority of us. And there's a logic and a mindset, and to step outside of that box and say, I am Black, but I am not a Democrat. You will not be able to define me by the color of my skin. It's a crazy world. You walk into a room and people think they know you. They look at the color of your skin or your gender, and they say, oh, yeah, I've already sized you up. Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, right? Just discounting and taking you for granted, right? They already know I got you. I don't need to try to woo you. I don't need to try to fight for you. I don't need to try to do anything for you. And I've had so many say the problem with the Black community is that you don't expect much. And because you don't expect much, people don't give you much. And hence the reason why our children are ducking and dodging bullets just to go to the front door or to go across the street to the mailbox. That's the foolishness of what the Democrat Party is offering the American people, right? Because I am Black, but it's not the only aspect about me. I'm an American too. And reading the history of my Founding Fathers, and I realized that it wasn't just white Europeans that were out there fighting for your liberty, but my people were right alongside you, fighting for the liberty of this land. That's why I don't walk into a room with my hat in my hand asking for your permission if I can speak. No, I walk into the room like a boss lady. I walk into the room recognizing that I own the spot that I'm in right now, right? That is the message that is so desperately needed, not just in the Black community, but across so many echelons, right? Whether you're talking to women, all of a sudden, because I'm a woman, there's nothing more to me than a uterus and a pair of ovaries. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? That I'm going to vote because of someone's ovary. Then if I'm going to vote based on ovary, then I guess I need to say, well, what condition are those ovaries in? I mean, if that's the logic that you want me to start using, right? Are they good? Are they functional? Old or young? I mean, what? It's the foolishness of it all. But that's the world in which we now live in. And it's, again, nothing new under the sun. This has been going on for so long. And that is one of the concepts of the book that I'm writing, is that being a part of the Black community, I can tell you about the Black harbinger of America, what is coming to America, the Black harbinger of what is coming to America. Because I can look into the Black community. White liberals have perfected, and when I say white liberals, I don't just mean Democrats. Y'all know that, right? We have some name only, right? Right. Yeah, exactly. But white liberals. I'm going to just lump them in that little bucket for right now. White liberals have perfected what they have done within the black community. They have gone into the black community as a little petri dish, as a little testing ground. And they perfected a lot of foolishness that now, as I look, it is spilling out of the black community and onto the streets of America. Green New Deal. How foolish is that? How foolish. Come on. How can you say that out loud and not laugh at yourself? What about immoral border walls? How crazy is that? But they say it out loud. I was sent to the southern border wall. It is a crisis. So when I hear people say that's just a vanity wall, it's like that's foolishness. But those are the same kind of lies that have been perfected in the black community. Oh, listen, you don't have to work. I'll be your daddy, says the government. I'll be your God. I'll pay your house note, mortgage, rent. I put food on your table. I pay your light bill. I buy your kids clothes. I make sure they have shoes for school. I make sure you have internet now and a phone, right? You just sit back. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. How foolish is that? That same logic has been perfected in the black community, and now it is spilling out into the greater community. Your little girls are being raped and pillaged by a variety of people who should not be here in the first place. And they say to you, don't worry about it. You're a racist if you say something about it. Being with those mothers on the border wall, all they had, and it just broke my heart, was the face of their child on a T-shirt that they wore. And they stood up in front of us and they tried to express to us who their child is. And then you go to these politicians and they say you're a racist if you recognize that. You're immoral, you're a bigot, you're phobic. Shut up, sit down, go to sleep, we'll take care of it. Is that not the same logic that they perfected in the black community? My time is running out. Thank you so much. I guess if I had to sum up what I'm saying, it is this. There is a strong sense of urgency that is needed in all of our communities in America of recognizing that there is a group of people who are not playing with you. They are hell-bent on redefining America, and they have done a magnificent job to date where kneeling at our flag is actually considered patriotic. You see that redefining that's going on? And there's a need for a sense of urgency. And from a pig farm to Wall Street to professorship to now on Fox News and a variety of other places with a book deal, yay! It is those pig farm values based on working hard. It is also based on understanding the history of my country. Thank you so much.